Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Now today's video is going to be all about the dependent visa situation in the UK Home Office, because the UK Home Office has now recently released statistics that honestly are very eye-opening, and I think is going to heavily influence the way the UK Home Office now decides to issue dependent visas for students but also for people who are coming to work into the UK. And I would highly recommend that you watch this video all the way to the end, especially if you are trying to migrate to the UK in the next 2 years, either as a student or as a working professional. Now, before I move ahead, I would highly recommend that you also sort of link with me on Instagram, and my username or my handle is Physiotherapy in UK, because Instagram has opened this entire world for me where I am able to drop in small reels or small snippets of vital information which I wasn't able to do on YouTube. So if you feel that this sort of video or any video that I have released has helped you in any way, do not forget to connect with me on Instagram, because I'm pretty sure that you will be able to get more information out of me, especially if you follow me on Instagram as well. But diving right into today's content, which is going to be all about the UK Home Office and the dependent visa situation for students and for working professional in the UK. So firstly, let's just understand what is a dependent visa and why is this being under question right now. Now, as you all understand that the dependent visa is possibly the easiest visa for any of us to have and come in live in the UK. Now, why is this so? So what happens is when you apply under dependent visa, you would possibly have a primary applicant, that is a main applicant, who could either be a student or a working professional, and that person is then going to issue visas in order for their spouse or children to come into the UK. Now that's quite easy, right? Because the spouse or the children do not need to sort of meet any criteria that have been laid down by the UK government, but they are just sort of piggybacking on this primary applicant. So all of this seems brilliant, but that's not even the biggest advantage. The biggest advantage about the dependent visa is that the dependent visa holder, say for example, your spouse, your husband or your wife who's coming into the UK as a piggy bank sort of to that primary applicant, is allowed to work for the whole sort of 40 hours in the week. So let's just take an example of, suppose I'm a student and my partner comes along with me from India to the UK, and for example I am studying but my partner is working full-time simultaneously. Now that would be that my partner is going to be able to make loads and loads of money by working full-time, and he would be able to sort of meet the prices or meet the bills that we would need in order to survive in the UK, whether it's accommodation, food, groceries, transport, etc., etc. But what that essentially does is that the primary applicant, say for example me as a student, would not have to worry about fulfilling my academic role, but also thinking about ways for me to build enough money to sustain within the UK, because my dependent or my partner is able to do all of that. So I can just focus on maybe improving my chances of getting a job once I've completed my degree. Now, that being said, another sort of big advantage that has been issued in terms of the dependent visa and the PSW is, say for example, I as a primary applicant, as a student, have been granted a 1-year student visa in order to study in the UK, and my partner comes along with me as a dependent. Now, following my 1 year of student visa, say for example, I go on the 2-year PSW and my partner again goes on a 2-year PSW along with me as a dependent visa holder. Now, what that essentially means is that even if, and this is the worst case scenario, guys, even if my partner and me are not able to get the job after the 3 years, that is the 1 year of student visa and 2 years of PSW, we would still be able to make sufficient amount of money to take back with us to our home country. So in just, thinking about the sort of broad numbers over here, we would be able to make anywhere between 20 to 30,000 pounds. And if I had to consider this in INR, because I live in India, like I'm originally from India, it would mean around 20 to 30 lakhs of money over the sort of 3 years. And this is the lowest amount that I've taken, provided that I have lived frugally and have lived a minimalistic lifestyle, that we would be able to take back with us to India, so that we would be able to build our lives in India, provided that we've not been able to land a job in the UK. Now, again, if you followed my channel and if you followed me on Instagram, you know that there are many jobs available for healthcare professionals in the UK, and most of our occupations are on the shortage occupation list. So there's a dearth of jobs that you could apply for, but this is like the worst case scenario that I am talking about. So now, before I move ahead, I would just like to pull up the article that was released by the Home Office recently. And as you can see, this article is released just on the 30th of September. So that's 7 days ago. And I think it's going to be really valuable to read this article
So
along
this
with you
is the
guys.
news article that I was talking about, where it's clearly written that UK is going to review the immigration numbers as the dependent numbers dramatically rise. Now, why has this happened? So the Home Secretary has reported that they would be analyzing the number of dependents of international students as a part of the immigration review has increased fivefold in 1 year. So what does that mean? Let's just take a look. So it just says here that in the year ending in June 2022, around 4 lakh visas, that is study visas, were granted, which is about 71% more than what was granted in 2019. Now, of this 4 lakh visas, 81,000 visas were granted only to the dependents of the sponsored students, which is 5 times that number as compared to the 2019 ratio as regarded from the Home Office National Statistics. Now, what this essentially means is for every student that is coming into the UK, around 5 dependents are tagging along with that student. And this sort of change has been seen over the last 2 years, that is from 2019 to 2021 or 2022 even. Now, what this is doing is it's encouraging the people in the Home Office to actually review these numbers so that they are analyzing the trend and the data on the dependents as a part of the immigration review, which will aim to bring down the headline figure while also ensuring that it boosts growth. Now, like I've explained in this video earlier, why is the dependent visa becoming a problem for the UK government? And if you've missed that, please just rewind to that part because, like I've explained to you before, anybody on the dependent visa, especially a child, will not be able to contribute to the economic growth of the country, that is of UK, but is actually going to be using several resources, for example, health, education, etc. And the UK government is actually going to need to put in the money to sustain that individual. Whereas for somebody who's working, they will be able to pay taxes, which actually covers all of the benefits that are set out by the UK government. So now another important thing that is noted by this sort of government right now is that immigration of highly skilled and skilled worker plays an important role in the economic growth, productivity and innovation. And I've talked about this several times on this channel. For example, UK being a country that has several job opportunities that are available to individuals who are highly skilled, especially us in the medical stream, because our skills are transferable across countries provided that we have the licensing to practice in that particular country. And as you can see that even right now about 10% of the roles across different jobs in the NHS are vacant. That means it's a brilliant opportunity for us in order to work in the country as a highly skilled medical professional. So now that the government has realized that obviously the dependent workers or the dependent visas being issued is higher, what they are trying to do is that they are going to try to shift the balance of the people coming to UK so that it focuses on people who actually have the skills to be in the UK and allow the UK to progress as a strong country in the future. One of the other sort of important factors that was identified from the recent study in the Home Office is that it identified that the international students from Nigeria and India brought the most dependents into the UK. So these are the two nationalities that they are sort of looking into even more closely as compared to the other ones. So, for example, the 34,000 Nigerian students brought around 31,898 dependents, which actually, if you think about it, is nearly the same number of dependents. That is, for every one student entering into the UK, at least the same number of dependents were also entering into the UK. And out of the 93,000 Indian students that have come into the UK in the last year, around 24,900 dependents visas were also issued, which is, I would say, around one third of the overall number of the student visas that were issued.
So now that you've read this article and you've received all of the sort of real information that was released by the Home Office, I would just like to say, why is the Home Office really thinking about the number of dependent visas that is being issued? And why is it even considering the statistics at the moment? And why is this such a major problem for all of you out there? So one of the reasons, and like I've explained this before, is say for example you are the primary applicant, you are still going to be paying two major taxes. You are going to be paying your income tax or the NI contributions, and you will be paying another sort of tax in order to live and work in the UK. Now this sort of tax that you pay will be covering your education for your children, but it will also cover the healthcare, and it will cover your unemployment benefits and your pension. So all of these sort of four benefits will be covered through the taxes that you are paying as an employed professional, that is as a skilled worker or a highly skilled worker. Now say for example you have a wife who comes along with you. Your wife would also be working, and she would also be expected to pay all of these taxes in order to cover all of these sort of facilities or benefits that the UK government is offering. But say for example you are a husband and a wife, and you have about four children. So that's about a family of six individuals. Your four children are not working at the moment, and they are not paying taxes to the government. But what is happening is they are actually eventually going to be receiving all of the benefits that are being issued to the taxpayers. Now, this means that the UK government would have to use its own sort of resources, that is, its own financial resources, in order to support your children, because you are just paying taxes for the two members of your family, but around four members are receiving the benefits without even paying those taxes to the UK government. So that essentially means that these sort of four members would have been receiving sort of the benefits from the UK government's own piggy bank, that is the UK government's own financial sort of holdings at the minute. And as you all know, the UK government is right now going into recession. The rates of inflation are quite high, and the UK government can't really expect to support all of these additional people while itself is, sort of shrinking over the course of the last few months. So this is the reason why the sort of uproar has been there in the UK government, and they are quite actively trying to find ways in order to sort of sustain its economy and also let it grow and expand into the future. Now, I'm not saying that this is the only reason, and this is the reason why the UK government is sort of going to try and limit the sort of dependent visas, but I'm just saying that this is one of the reasons that I could think about and I would want to share with all of you guys, which I've done in this video. So now, just coming down to what do you think is going to be the impact of this on the dependent visas being issued? Now, I would say that one of the impacts that I see myself considering in the next few months is that the UK government is going to try and make the dependent visas more stricter, is going to maybe add more restrictions in order to control the influx of people who are coming into the UK or sort of trying to live into the UK as dependents. Third thing that I think is already evident, and you could see this through multiple sort of other resources at the moment, is that the dependent visas are taking much longer than what they used to in the past. So I think this delays of dependent visas is just going to sort of increase in the future. So what would be my advice to all of you guys out there? So if you are a student, I would say start applying for universities immediately. If it is your goal to come to the UK, I would say that start applying for universities immediately. If you get an offer letter, accept that offer letter if obviously you feel that that particular course is helpful to you in any way. And following that, start your process. Now, the reason why I am telling you to sort of hop on that train to come to the UK or to start your process is basically because the UK government, once it identifies any sort of difficulties or any sort of ways that it can protect itself, it will take a significant amount of few months to identify ways to implement these changes. Now, this sort of time period that is there where the UK government thinks about ways to implement these changes is your key period in order to come into the UK along with your dependents. So I would say if you have any chance of coming into the UK in the next few months or in the next year, grab onto that chance. Don't let it go, because that might be your single golden opportunity for the next few years. Now, similarly, if you are a working professional, I would say do not delay your process any further. If you have any sort of difficulties about how you should apply for jobs in the UK, how you should attend interviews in the UK, please do not forget to link with me for a one-to-one session, and I'm just going to leave the link for my website right now above, just so that you have all of the understanding to get a job as soon as possible so that you and your dependents can come into the UK and can live a good life. So that's it from today's video, guys, and I really hope you found it useful. And if you did, do not forget to like this video but also subscribe to my channel so that you can follow me for more updates, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram. Take care, you all. Bye.